Here's what's coming up on today's show.
Reducing the impulsivity and the excitement of the next stage of life and making it really, really clear and fleshing that out over and over with multiple conversations and giving them the power to choose and choose wisely.
This is the Retire Happy podcast with John Amarino, a fiduciary financial advisor at Securus Financial in the San Diego area, and Thomas O'Connell, president of International Financial Advisory Group, Inc. in Parsippany, New Jersey. Together, they'll be keeping retirement happy from coast to coast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Retire Happy podcast. I am your host on the West Coast, John Amarino, and I am joined by my great friend and esteemed co-host on the East Coast, Mr. Tom O'Connell. Tommy, how you doing?
I'm doing great, John. It's good to be back on the East Coast after a few-day visit out to Las Vegas for my Becoming Your Own Banker think tank. So it's nice to sleep in your own bed after a few days.
That is true. How was was it cold out in Vegas, rainy, or pretty nice?
The sun was out. The sun was there weren't too many clouds, but it was very windy. Coming out on Saturday, they actually had some flights delayed because the winds at the airport were about 70, 80 miles an hour. So, but other than that, it was nice. I mean, we do these conferences and we spend all day in a conference room working, so I don't get to get out too much. But all in all, it wasn't bad.
Right, nice.
And how about you? You guys went up to Orange County for a baseball game?
Yeah, so we stayed at my sister's. The weather was kind of a little wonky out here this weekend. It was like drizzle, kind of rain off and on. So the field wasn't the best conditions up in Orange County. They did a pretty good job at keeping it playable, but Jake played up with his 12U team, and he did well. He is the only one of him and his best friend were the only players to get hits in both games. He had double sacrifice fly, a lot of hard contact. So it's kind of what we've been working on. And I mean, he was facing 63, 64 mile an hour pitches. And for a kid that's barely 11, we were really happy. So,
good,
and then Sunday got rained out. So we just hung out at my sister's house. So
very cool. All right.
Well, folks, today's episode is going to focus on relocating or downsizing your home and selling your home. And this is a topic that, especially in our respective areas, California, New Jersey, New York markets, we're seeing a lot of people selling their homes and relocating to other states. I know, I've helped out multiple clients who have relocated to Tennessee, Texas, Arizona, in helping them understand just the tax savings on that move, let alone the cost of living. As soon as, we always joke off air that as soon as we go to Arizona from California, gas drops like $2.50 a gallon. So today's episode is going to really dive into that and how a lot of people are looking to either go to warmer climates from the East Coast, or they're looking to get to cheaper and more tax-friendly states, or they may be downsizing. So Tommy's bringing on a good friend and very knowledgeable realtor. So Tom, why don't you do the intro here?
Sure. This is a young lady originating from the Boonton Mountain Lakes, New Jersey area. Her name is Melissa Bevacqua, a nice Italian girl. And let's see, let me give you a quick update on her bio. Melissa considers herself a consultant by nature, and her curiosity leads her to challenge the here and now and to search for new ways of living our best lives. Helping you find your next home is her way of encouraging personal growth, and she's thrilled to see her clients write a new chapter in a new home. When you choose her as your realtor, her focus is on your satisfaction. When you introduce her to others over a quick call, text, or email, they can decide very quickly if she is a fit for their real estate needs as well. And so with that, I would like to introduce Ms. Melissa Bevacqua.
And today's guest, the president of Bevacqua Real Estate, it's Melissa Bevacqua.
Thank you very much for that warm introduction. So great to be here with you both.
Well, we're very pleased, honored, and happy to have you.
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Melissa. And you know what? Before we begin, Tommy, you read that very nicely. It was very well done.
Well, thank you. I practiced all weekend.
Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah. I have a long way to go. So, Melissa, we're going to jump right into it because after reading the last two lines of the bio, right, I think it's something we get asked this all the time as well as financial advisors. Who can you trust? How do we know that person's a good advisor? What are some of the questions we should be asking as consumers of advisors and things like that? So, in your area of expertise, what makes up a good realtor or consultant? What makes and what are the kinds of questions people should be asking to know if that person is a fit for them or not?
Great question. I actually get this asking about myself all the time. So it's really important because in the real estate world, there's many real estate agents and brokers out there. Many people hold a license. And for the person who is a serious shopper and a serious seller, they need someone that's going to fit their expectations, right? So in turn, I tell people to really ask the person that they're interviewing, the real estate agent that they're interviewing, questions that helps them understand where they're going to be in the process of buying and selling a home. So what does that look like? You'll get a name from someone, maybe it's a family member or a friend who's a real estate agent, and someone else has used them. They really like them for their personal reasons. Now it's your job as that buyer and seller to build that rapport with the agent and for the agent to turn around and build rapport with you. You should be asking, as a buyer or a seller, ask that agent, about what they know about the market. You may even be able to pepper in ideas of, how are they making judgments? How are they working with other clients? Because you will hear people mention someone they know by name because they know their name. And the buyer or the seller, need to feel confident that the person that's representing one of their biggest financial assets is going to take care of them from beginning and beyond the transaction.
Absolutely. Now, Melissa, the majority of our listeners, they're, late in employment. They're looking to retire soon, or they're possibly retired. And especially out here in California, we get a lot of people that, part of their retirement planning is looking to move out of the state of California. Or they're retired and they're either going to move to be with family, mainly grandchildren, or they're just looking to downsize and reduce costs. What do you see as a realtor, and how do you help people prepare for that?
Oh, that's so important. And again, I go back to setting those expectations. So when clients choose me, they're getting ready to leave a home. Maybe they have a second home somewhere else, or they're going to be shopping for something that fits their needs later in their life. I talk to them about where they are right now in their home. What do they like about that home? What do they want to see in their next home? And what do they not care for anymore? What doesn't suit them? Some folks have homes that are too large. They don't want to mow a lawn anymore. They want to be closer to family, as you mentioned. So I review with them multiple times. There is some repetition, and I speak about things in lists often so they can follow along and understand what they need to do. Some key takeaways are starting to reduce their belongings. I joke about the law of expanding possessions, right? You've lived in a large home for a very long time. You have all of these things that mean so much to you. There's going to be the need to reduce your belongings. There's going to be a need to reduce the personalization of your home. And the reason is you want to get top dollar when you sell, right? And you do that by making the home have a clean slate. You're pulling off family photos from the walls, taking care of any visible problems. Maybe there's paint that needs to happen, cracks that need to be filled, curbside appeal that needs some new life with mulching, power washing. Those are the things that we do to really just cause a nice create a nice, welcoming atmosphere for a buyer and prepare that listing to get top dollar.
Sounds like a lot of the questions that you've mentioned are, John, are a lot of the similar questions that we're asked or we encourage people to ask, right? Do you have an advisor? What did you like about the plans that you have in place so far? What don't you like? All those kinds of things. So there's a lot of similarities there. And for the listeners, one thing I did neglect to mention so far is that Melissa Bevacqua is the president of Bevacqua Real Estate. So she is the lady that's in charge. So you're taught when you speak with Melissa, you're speaking with the boss.
Very true.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I am the boss. Well, I do have to say, for clarity, shameless plug. My license does hang with a brokerage, Signature Realty New Jersey. And that's the way that most of New Jersey real estate agents are paid. We have our license hung in a larger brokerage. I do not have a brick and mortar, which is a requirement here in New Jersey. So I am very proud to keep my brand associated with Signature Realty, which is actually a growing business name as well here. But when you hire an agent, you're hiring the person and everything that's behind them. And I'm really proud to have Signature Realty behind me and to how they support Bevacqua Real Estate as a business.
Good. So a lot of we find people as they're maturing, as they're phasing out of their work life into their passive income or retirement life, moving to new destinations. So one of the things I always try to encourage people who are telling me that they want to do that is to not necessarily buy something right away, someplace that you went for a week vacation, but go down there and live for 6 months or a year and see if you really do like it. Because why do you want to have to sell a house 2 or 3 times if you go somewhere, you don't like it, and you want to either move back or move somewhere else? But with that said, so what are some of the things that people should be looking for when they are looking to relocate?
Tom, that's excellent advice off the bat, especially with the advent of Airbnb and all of these temporary living situations that people can tap into. But to explore and to really understand where they want to have their retirement years in this country. When people are looking for a new home, there's a lot of questions and answers, just like when they talk to you and finding out, how do they want to live? Is it going to be in a 55 and older community? Is it going to be closer to family? Do they already own a second or even a third home? And I tell them, go speak to Tom and John, go back to you and make sure that we're all on board together, because this isn't a single decision. It's a series of decisions. And then pulling through, what do they like about their current home? What do they need for the future? And then we review styles of home. We review cities. And if they already have a home, a second location in the state that they live in, and by all means, they may just be selling and taking that pocket money for their retirement and may not be purchasing something else.
Would you say there's, I won't say specific things to look for in a new home at that stage, but are there in general really things that people should be looking out for or looking for?
Yes. So again, understanding your financials for the long term, so it doesn't become an issue where you're going to have to move again within the next 5 to 10 years, being able to plan that out. So what are the taxes like? If you're in a community setting, what are the organization fees, the association fees associated with that? Then from a physical perspective, as we mentioned, what the layout is for their mobility and their long-term living. What interests are they taking into consideration? Do they want to live near a golf course or a tennis club? Do they want to be very remote and away from everything? These are questions that come up over and over. And actually, as a attentive agent, I'm asking them back to affirm and reconfirm what they've told me. I want to reduce buyers and sellers remorse. I want them to feel like they've been in control the whole time and they know what their destiny holds for them.
Yeah, that's
So
important, because especially, you don't want to move somewhere and they get caught off guard by the costs, or like you said, Tommy, you go there for a vacation. You're like, oh, this is, Phoenix is great in April. And then in July, it's 118 degrees and
Exactly.
You're melting, although it's a dry heat. So, and then all of a sudden now you want to move back to San Diego where the weather's great. And, now you have just a bunch of, real estate now is, beyond crazy out here. And now you might be paying a premium from where you were at before the move.
yes, and we don't want anyone to feel stuck. And we're thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. What does that entail? And even considering things like when your friends and family come to visit, what process do they have to go through? Are they flying to visit you? Are they packing up a car full of kids and dogs? And how long are they staying with you? Do you have the space for them? Are they ending up, is there somewhere for them to stay nearby if they can't stay with you? Reducing the impulsivity and the excitement of the next stage of life and making it really, really clear and flushing that out over and over with multiple conversations and giving them the power to choose and choose wisely.
Yeah, this isn't something that people should be doing on a whim. Like you said, for most people outside of their maybe 401k, this is their single largest asset. And many people will be depending on that at some point for some type of, to live off of at some level.
Very much so. And also keeping in mind, what are the tax ramifications, capital gains. You may have purchased a home 20, 30, 40 years ago. And now with inflation and the cost of living going up, you may be pocketing a ton of money. You may have paid, they've been working with Tom and John to, reduce any sort of expenses over time. They've paid off these assets. Now they turn around and sell. Well, the government may also want their piece of that pie that nest egg
Absolutely.
that you've taken such good care of. Do you need to be reinvesting somewhere else? So how are you diversifying the profits that you're receiving from the sale? That's really important to keep abreast. And a lot of times I don't get into that with them other than advising them back to you guys to make sure that
Right.
they are aware. I'd let them know it's a real concern and to be diligent with that.
John, don't you have an exit tax now in California?
Yeah, they mention it. They've got a lot of things they're kicking around here, right? They want to do an exit they want to do an exit tax. They will, because I do know advisors that moved where they're saying, hey, you're still, your clients are in California or whatnot, so you're paying state tax on that. One thing I tell clients all the time, in New York is the other state, that when you are looking to buy just maybe a second home and have that 50-50 split, but claim residency in another state, you best make sure your residency in that other state is true. Because California and New York are the most aggressive states in coming after people claiming other state residencies, but really living the majority of the time in California. You don't want to get caught by the state tax board doing that. Now, Melissa.
John,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so in Jersey, a lot of times the state knows that you're selling something and they'll prepare in the closing documents a withholding of taxes ahead of time to make sure that they get paid just in case you run for the hills. Is there anything like that happening in
I haven't,
California?
that's a great question. I've got a couple close friends that are realtors. I'll have to ask on that because that's
it's convoluted.
Yeah.
They don't make it a clean cut. So I get asked that a lot. People ask me for advice and they say, oh, am I going to get taxed, or is the state going to withhold this and that for me? And then I really have to understand what their situation is, because I can't give financial advice
Right.
per se. But I want them to be aware that I want to take as many what ifs, as many monkey wrenches out of the equation. No sticker shock. The only
Yeah.
sticker shock I want is for them to see dollar signs when they sell that home that they've worked so hard for.
So,
Yeah.
just one real quick correction about what Melissa said, and it's called the United Soviet State of New Jersey. I just want to make sure we're clear.
We're not far behind. We're always jockeying for 1 and 2 position there.
Absolutely.
Right. Let's be competitive with each other and cannibalize ourselves.
Yeah. So from the financial, Melissa, you mentioned a lot about the financial, like, hey, this is what you have to be aware of, and Tommy, you again said some great points about knowing where you're living, and something I've mentioned to clients is, okay, are you moving to the area for the climate, right? As we get older, our bodies tend to like, warmer weather, but something I've seen, my whole in-laws, they moved out to Arizona, south of Phoenix, and we had a little bit of a health scare with an in-law, and actually even on our last trip with Jake, where we had to do a children's hospital run, and we also had to do a regular ER visit. And in Arizona, when you start to get out to a lot of these suburbs, it's no longer an ambulance drive. It's going to be a quick drive to the nearest hospital that may not have a trauma or a good ER, and they're going to life flight you to Phoenix. So, what are some things that people may not, people get, hey, emotion always drives decisions. So we want to be closer to the grandkids. We want to get out of this state. We want to get out of this weather. And they don't think about, we want to get out of the city. We want that rural living, but they don't think about things like, where's the nearest hospital? So what are some things that our listeners really should be aware of that if they're moving, especially as they're getting towards that retirement age, things they should, really focus on, consider?
So I find that keeping all of that in mind, doing that prospecting of where you are in relation to things. Everyone really has a cell phone now, and whether they know how to use it or not, there are capabilities to identify how quickly you can get to hospitals, where your doctor is. A lot of these doctors are part of these big ACO groups. They're the group settings where you can get all of your specialists under one umbrella of healthcare. And that is something that is important to ensure that people know if they're having a condition that they're being treated for in New York. They live in New Jersey, they're being treated up here, and then they're going half of the year to Florida or the Carolinas, something to that nature. How are they aligning themselves to the continuum of care, and even allowing their doctors to know that, let them be on notice. I'm traveling, I'm going to be out, I'm going to snowbird for X amount of months. And this is what you can anticipate. Make sure all of your prescriptions are updated, all of that. And that should come into play. Again, as you said, you want to take care of your body and be where it's warmer and more limber, but you don't want to have the trade-off of the emergent care that you'll need.
Yeah. So, one of the examples is the popular show Yellowstone, where it looks so beautiful to be out in Montana. But once you get out there, one of the things they don't show you on the show is the 10 feet of snow that they get in January and February. So if you're not prepared for that, right, or if you have medical conditions like we're talking about, you need to get to a hospital, you may be waiting a couple of days for somebody to plow you out. But these are, I'm being a little facetious, obviously, but these are the things that people have to think about, which I know I try to talk to people about, but I would think that a good realtor, right, Melissa, would say something like that, like, hey, you're a mile from a junkyard, or you're a 20 minute drive to the nearest urgent care, things like that. No?
Yes, that's a great point. So when you frame it in that regard, things to, people care about, not just the traffic of things, but, are you moving to a vacation town or area, right? Where you're going to you're going to sit in traffic nonstop. Even I have a lot of clients who will move to Fort Myers, Naples, Florida, that whole area, and they end up, or Tampa, they end up getting stuck in traffic. And when you're trying to get somewhere, how does that play into your lifestyle? Even if you just want to go to the grocery store, as you do mature, you don't necessarily want to sit in traffic to get your errands run. You want to feel as much freedom as possible and mobility. And a good agent in that area, especially if I was referring out to one of my referrals in another state, and I've got referrals in all, if I was referring out to them, that's something that they would be the expert on. In New Jersey, we have a lot of congestion. We have a lot of activity very nearby, so that I can speak to. But when you are going more remote, or you're going to a vacation area, even down to Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, or even Atlantic City, New Jersey, there's going to be ebbs and flows in the season that are going to, play into how you want to live your life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to Florida on the coast, maybe you want to know that a baseball team has spring training there, and maybe you don't want to be there in February, or that your town has a massive influx of 100,000 teenagers for spring break. That's the kind of stuff that people should know.
Yeah,
most definitely.
And so
festivals, even sports. I mean, there's so that really it's just questions to ask, things to be aware of. And your clients, I mean, these people, they can take advantage of that. They have the right to be asking these questions.
Oh, and they absolutely should
be empowered.
Yeah. So we've talked about, you obviously want to consider the state taxes, both not only, income tax, but estate tax, because there are states with estate taxes. You want to consider, obviously, the cost of living, because that's going to affect your taxes either positively or negatively. You're going to want to also consider property taxes. And I've seen, Melissa, and maybe you can handle this first part of the question too. You need to understand that some states, it's just kind of like a statewide property tax, and then some states are by the counties, correct?
In New Jersey, yes. I mean, there's the property tax, there's different tax ratios by each municipality, by each town. And each town decides that your assessment of your property whenever they see fit. Some are very regular, and they will assess your property every year. Other towns, the town right next door can do as they see fit, and they may not assess your property for 6 years, 7, 10 years. And then next thing you know, your taxes can jump. On the flip side, you rarely can have a reduction in taxes. Maybe they're building an Amazon warehouse, or there's some sort of business exchange happening, but that's a tough thing to guesstimate, because you don't know what the future holds. People who are active in their local planning boards actually do very well, because they know what their town is funneling, how they're funneling money through the municipality,
right?
And they can stay ahead of that. But it's not for everyone to be diligent on that. Some people just want to relax and enjoy themselves, and not. They're more worried about their gardening than they are about, the town politics and financials.
So now we've talked a little bit about knowing where the taxes are, and I had this conversation with my brother-in-law this weekend, who's also an advisor.
Where's he located?
He's in Orange County, San Clemente, but we were talking about Arizona, because he was asking, because that's a certain point in time we're looking to move to Arizona. And I actually said, being out there, kind of like Tommy is, in my younger days, I used to play a lot of baseball out in Scottsdale, and I loved Scottsdale. But now visiting my in-laws, I'm all about more like the south end of Scottsdale. And you could get, my father-in-law is trying to pitch me on a $1.3 million ranch style home. That's just, Toll Brothers is just a beautiful home. So we were talking about that. And, we were also talking about property taxes. And I said, for a lot of people in California, yes, you may pay a higher property tax rate somewhere else, but let's look at the true dollars of the tax, because this home that we were talking about would not be $1.3 $3 million. It would be $3.3 million in San Diego. So, you need to don't get so much enamored with the tax rate versus the actual tax you're paying. One thing I'd like to ask you is, after considering all the area, the taxes, the cost, what are some things that you find people downsizing or retirement in terms of aging with grace that they should consider in their homes?
I said it before, not to beat a dead horse, but again, that one floor living.
Yeah.
I don't know. I believe out in California, you have air conditioning everywhere, but in New Jersey, not every home has air conditioning because a lot of these homes were built so long ago that they don't have the ductwork and the cooling capability. So being able to install what we call out here ductless splits and these air conditioning units that are not necessarily an eyesore in the window, but they can keep your home temperate. Not only does it help to make your body feel cool as you're living in different stages of your life, but it also does help preserve the actual home itself from, humidity, growth of molds and things of that, mosses. I tell people to understand which way their home is facing. That will play into how much sunlight your home gets. And we do know that vitamin D and natural light helps with overall mood, especially during different times of the year. Being able to have that natural exposure just makes you feel better throughout your aging years. Some of the other things, while you want your home to be as quote unquote new and updated as possible, sometimes that's not an option. I tell people to consider having that chunk of change to renovate a roof, maybe update some bathroom and kitchen settings, because sometimes that's not an option in your price point, depending on where you're going. Also, being able to, we talked about having, if there's snow on the ground, you probably want a garage. If you haven't had a garage, some areas of Staten Island, New York, they have no garages anywhere. And people who move away from that, they deserve their home or their car to be covered and having easy access with groceries, and their tennis rackets, their golf clubs, whenever they're, getting grandkids in and out of the house. Those are definitely things to consider. They're amenities for the home.
I'm gonna, if I can, I just want to jump back, John, to the previous things that you were talking about taxes and costs and things. What people seem to forget sometimes, or maybe it's just me, but they focus on property taxes, right? They say, well, if I go to this state, the property taxes are so much less, and I get that, right? Especially from the highest tax state in all of the 50 states, right? New Jersey. But all these places need money to be run, right? Someone still has to pay the garbage man. Someone still has to pay the crossing guards and the cops and the firemen and so on and so forth. So, an example I use is, you could move to Florida and maybe your taxes are half of what they are in New Jersey. I get that. But when you read the news these days, your homeowner's insurance might be 3 or 4 times what it is in New Jersey, right? So,
if you can even get insurance,
right? Yeah. So I guess my point really is that you have to understand what all of your costs are, right? Because look, at the end of the day, you may not be saving out of pocket money by where you're going if you're going for a very singular reason like property taxes.
Yeah, no, that's true. And that's
Tommy, you sparked an idea with me when you were saying those unassumed costs. We find a lot of folks want to move near the water, right? But now a lot of states are requiring you to have flood insurance.
Right.
Because these bodies of water are not necessarily holding the amount of water that are coming through with rains and hurricanes and natural disasters. It impacts the actual structure, and so now they're not accounting for this added cost that they can't get rid of. And if you're on water, are you paying for the treatment of that water? Maybe for algae growth, mosquitoes, whatever that looks like. You're running from quote unquote taxes, but it might necessarily be paying something else somewhere else.
Right. Yeah. And that's, just like with anything, whether it's, it's purchasing real estate for an investment or just your new home or investing in something or choosing an advisor, you always got it. You have to know your pros and cons. There's not going to be one simply perfect place to be. Every place in this nation is going to have, its ups and downs. And something, again, kind of going back to my in-laws, just because, they're newly retired and they're a perfect example for this. Last July, I believe, was the hottest July that that area has experienced. And, they said it actually still wasn't that bad. You just kind of morphed your day around it. So, it's definitely something there's a lot to consider. Just, hey, we're going to pick up and move to get to a new state to avoid these reasons, or going to go follow, the grandkids out. And that's why we had this show, because this is a reality for a lot of prospects and for a lot of our clients. I don't know about you, Tommy, but when I started a little over a decade ago, it was just all San Diego. Now I'm looking at Washington, Oregon, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, Tennessee, for my clients living. I literally have virtual Mondays sometimes.
Yeah, I think I'm in about 12 or 13 states at this stage. If I count confusion, then it's 14 states, but but I'm all over the place.
So we're getting near the end, and Melissa, if it's possible, let's say Tom and I call you up with a prospective, they're looking to retire and they're just now retiring, and they're saying, hey, we just want to change of pace. We're going to move. Can you give us a little walkthrough of the process and how you help those people, through the process and the timeline, especially in today's markets? I know you're on the East Coast, but we're still dealing with a lot of similarities with interest rates and housing costs out here. The timeline of selling and then buying a new property.
Absolutely. I mean, as you tell your clients, it's never too early to start these conversations. So when you refer someone to me, I like to jump on a phone call or even a Zoom so they can see who I am, and we build rapport where I'm talking about their priorities. I'm understanding timelines, what they want versus what they are actually going to achieve, the pros and cons. So by interviewing them and them interviewing me to make sure that we're a fit for this project, this change of chapters for them, the turning of the page, I'm gathering information from them, and I'm essentially outlining what needs to happen. And sometimes they're not ready, but that's okay, because the only way you can become ready is by gathering information. And I take notes for my clients. So if they're not taking notes, I've got it for them, and I'm following up with them and setting their expectations. In the next few months, this is what you can expect. There's going to always be the unknowns of the actual market, and it's not always perfect, but that doesn't mean that we've removed as much doubt as possible. Constantly checking in, where are they in their timeline? Are they waiting for a certain milestone to happen? Are they actually waiting to retire from their job, for someone in their family to get married, for whatever that is? And just my job is to follow up and be diligent and understand their priorities, reassess them over and over. So again, they're in control. They're making the decisions, and I'm guiding the process. And when they're ready, that's when we strike. We put the house on the market. We do what we need to do to put the plan in motion.
And I think with that too, my bit of advice, again, this is something my in-laws did. They sold really when the market was at top dollar, and they understood that their house was being built and it wasn't going to be ready till the end of the year, and they sold in June. So they kind of had a little bit of an agreement where they could stay in the house for 3 months as a little bit of a rent back. And then they have a big fifth wheeler, and they just went and they lived in an RV community for about 4 or 5 months. And, they said it was different, but it was something that was definitely in the long run, a very wise move, because had they waited, the housing prices would have gone down. And, so you always got to have a backup plan. If your house, if you put a house on the market and all of a sudden you're not thinking this place is going to sell for 3 months and a motivated buyer comes, you have to be ready for that contingency, right?
Absolutely. They planned well. Here in New Jersey, we call it a use and occupancy agreement, which is a attorney binding lease that is a very short term. It's got a day limit, even up to a per diem limit as to how long someone can stay or go over with the overlapping of a sale of a home. And that is an excellent tool that really strong real estate agents and attorneys utilize to help essentially pull the money out of one home and put it into a new home, or buy themselves time. And I have clients right now that are going through that. They purchased a home. They're selling their home on the back end, and they're going to be displaced for about 6 weeks in between the two transactions. And we, again, in taking notes and understanding the pros and cons, to them, the value of being displaced for 2 weeks. No one wants that disruption, but the value of it is getting them where they want to be and where they're headed.
John, you can Airbnb your RV to them.
I could. I mean, we don't use it anymore.
Well, there you go.
Emma and I stayed there, 3 summers ago with you guys, and it's a beautiful RV. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the summers, though, when everybody lived here and we were using it a lot. But I think we're actually going for the first time in a couple weeks, and we haven't used it in 6 or 7 months. And I don't think it hasn't crossed my mind to be like, hey, let me go ahead and set this up for you and rent that out, because, I mean, just the cost of it is not the best. Let's just put it that way.
And after meeting your father-in-law, I could see where he and your mother-in-law kind of would dig living in an RV for a little while, at least anyway. I don't know. Something strikes me about your father-in-law where that's probably pretty cool for him to hang out at.
Yeah, I mean, he's a simple guy. He doesn't need a whole lot, but even he says, yeah, it's okay for, the first month, and then all of a sudden it's like you do miss your space, and he does a lot of stuff outdoors, but living in an RV and then camping with your friends, and it's where when we go on camping, we're barbecuing, we're having some beer, some whiskey, we're playing cornhole. You're not doing that every day. You're just sitting there, and you got people moving in and out of the RV place all the time. So he said they said it was a challenge, but until my mother-in-law transitioned out of her job, again, everything, and you hit it on the dot, Melissa, they planned out very well for this. And they understood, that we had a lot of discussions, and they asked a lot of different people's opinions on things, and now they're loving life. They don't have a mortgage payment, and they have a house that's all brand new. They don't have things breaking. They downsized from a huge property, and we're talking acre plus with multi floors, just to a nice decent sized backyard with a pool and a 3-bedroom house with 2 master suites. It's really, they are the epitome of the perfect sense move. It made sense for them dollars and cents wise, and even downsizing in California, they could have downsized, but their costs really wouldn't have gone down, because even condos out here are ridiculously priced. So one last question before we wrap up. Interest rates, there's talks about them, conservatively lowering them potentially in the summer. What do you think the trends are, if you can put your genie hat on and your future telling hat on? What do you think interest rates are going to have the effect, and what the market will look like the rest of the year?
I can't say interest rates have actually been a tough emotional topic for me. And this is why. the interest rates are going up and down, and you're never going to stop people from first time home buying position. You've got these 30, 35, 40-year-old people who are buying their first home. They're always going to be putting pressure on the market to get into a house. In the last few years, when the market and the interest rates had dropped, so many people refinanced. How many of your clients refinanced over the past, during that pandemic we heard so much about? Right now, they're locked in. There's many families that are locked into a low interest rate, and they're not interested in moving unless they're retiring, unless they're going somewhere else. So there's no inventory. So sure, interest rates can keep dropping, but you know what it's going to do? Drive up the price. And why is that? Because there's so little inventory, and there's so many buyers that we can't. There's not enough homes for people to buy.
Right.
And the general idea is exciting, because these lower interest rates are lubricating our economy and keeping us the best country in the world. We want that. We want that wealth. But, I'm seeing first time home buyers. I mean, they're spending $700,000 on their first home, and they're offering $100,000 over asking just to beat 16 other offers.
Yeah.
It's not
insane.
Stable.
Yeah.
Really, my heart really pounds for it because if you're not paying attention and you're not planning, and you don't have a network of people like you in their corner, people like me in their corner, advocating for what's happening, they might be getting an skewed view of the economy and where the future lands them. I've seen people sell because they wanted to take advantage of these prices, and they sold getting a ton of money, but then they had nowhere to go because the interest rate went up from where they were to where they're going, and they couldn't find another home, and they end up spending way more than they had planned, and all that profit they took from the initial sale didn't pan out.
Yeah.
The way they wanted it to.
And in closing, Melissa, you really hit it on the dot again. Having that team of professionals that this is your niche, this is your profession, it's what you do, it's what you live. And for Tommy and I, we get so many, people that have been doing it themselves, and there's a level of comfort and confidence because they've just said, hey, I've managed my investments very well while I was working, but they don't understand, the complexities of what lies ahead of them. A lot of people, and I just did a video this last week, and Tommy and I were talking about this at Ed Slot, 400-page manual in 2 days of private letter rulings and laws of what can go wrong with just your IRA and estate taxes. And, it's, for a lot of, I see a lot of do-it-yourselfers where they're following the Warren Buffetts and all these big time people. But I always tell them, listen, the Warren Buffetts of the world aren't doing it themselves. They have real estate experts. They have CFAs. They have tax experts. And it's really important that, again, if you're making this huge move with all the different variables, that you have a great team like Melissa, and a great advisor like Tommy and I, biasly speaking, to help guide you through and give you, and Melissa, you said it again, to help navigate you, not make the decision for you. And Tommy and I, we tell this to all the people that come into our offices. It's not our job to make the decision for you. You're plenty smart. You're plenty capable. Our job is to tell you, listen, this is the most efficient route. These are the best questions to ask in how to avoid any icebergs ahead and to get you from point A to point B in the most efficient manner possible.
Yeah, one thing I'll add on top of that is that, John, you and I have been at this for a couple of years now as a podcast team, and we've had many, many guests. And, I just want our listeners to know that we just don't bring anybody on as a guest, right? We have personal experience with the people that we bring on here. And so we're only going to bring on quality people. And Melissa has helped me in the past with clients. And for full disclosure, we don't get paid for referrals or anything like that from any of the people that we do business with that are not in our bailiwick and that we recommend, like for real estate or for attorneys that we recommend or whoever else that we recommend to our clients. We have the personal experience with them so that we know what our clients are going to go through, how they're going to be treated, right? And so we're only bringing to you the top quality people out there that we know are going to take care of you.
Absolutely. And, even to that point, in the full disclosure, I tell them, even the close people that I am referring business to, I tell them, I don't want your money. I make a great living. I just want to add value to my clients. That's the biggest thing. So that's, and I always tell people I'm referring you to, I trust you and I trust that you're going to add that value, because if you don't, we're going to move on. We're going to find someone else.
There's a line in the sand, and when you cross it, you never
story.
come back.
Yeah. And, and fortunately for me, I haven't had my referral network has been solid except for one CPA. And the CPA was great until they made a business decision to be bought out by a bigger firm, and it noticeably went to garbage. And so we gave it one shot, and that was it. You're done. And, we moved on our clients, but, those things happen. So, well, Melissa, we appreciate you coming on the show. It was a great show of really a lot of different things you need to think about, not just moving out of state, but whether it's downsizing and the costs and just the environment at all. So, if you are definitely in the New Jersey area or New York area, you're going to want to reach out to Melissa, and you can reach her a number of ways. Number one, you can give her a call on her cell. She's giving the cell number out, folks, 201-317-3940. You can email her at bevacquarealestate@gmail.com, and that is BEVACQUA realestate@gmail.com. Did I get that right, Melissa?
You did. Thank you.
All righty. And on Instagram, it's at Bevacqua Real Estate. And during the show, I was actually on her Facebook page, Melissa N. Bevacqua Realtor, and you will see the tremendous team she has there, the houses she's sold, and you can definitely see her passion. And you can also visit her website, bevacquarealestate.com. So we'll have all those in the show notes for you.
Awesome.
This was so fun. So happy to continue to be part of your professional network.
And Melissa does have the capability, if you are in the San Diego area, she does have a referral source out there. So if you are in San Diego, don't be afraid to call Melissa.
Yeah,
please don't.
Melissa, I mean, are there states that you hold your license in outside of New Jersey and New York?
I actually don't. I've thought about it. New Jersey is one of the, if not the most difficult state to get your real estate license in. And I've been so busy that I have really just remained in my New Jersey lane. But I have referrals in almost every state, and if not, I'll find them. I will interview them on my client's behalf. When it comes to San Diego, I have a great network. Melissa and John, they do a ton of real estate out by you guys. We bop information, resources, knowledge sharing about the markets, and just taking care of our clients and making sure everything is really seamless. We're in constant communication, and social media is allowed for that too. We're checking in on each other. So, the goal of all of our, I would imagine, John, Tom, myself, our profession is to give you freedom and to take the workload off of you to live your best life. So we have the resources to do it.
Yeah, that's well said. Well said. Well, thanks again, Melissa. And that's going to wrap up another episode of the Retire Happy podcast. And, Tommy, you mentioned we've been doing this a few years now. We are actually coming up here in I think mid-year, our 100th episode. So, we thank all the listeners, and especially all the guests and our engineering team and our production team that helped put this together.
Absolutely.
It's been a fun ride. We always enjoy sitting down and talking with our guests and our friends because, like Tommy said, our network, it's professional, but a lot of these people are friends and trusted people. So thanks again, folks, for tuning in. And, again, if you want to hear something, shoot it in the comments of the YouTube page or whatever podcast you're listening to, or shoot us an email and give us a topic that you want to hear more on, and we will have it on the show. So until next time, folks, we want you to retire happy from coast to coast. Take care.
It's easy to get in touch with John and Thomas. If you're more on the West Coast, give John a call at 858-935-6210. That's 858-935-6210, or go online to GoSecurus.com. That's GoSecurus.com. If you're more of an East Coaster, then call Thomas, 973-394-0623. That's 973-394-0623, and online at internationalfinancial.com. That's internationalfinancial.com. And you can, of course, always just check the description or the show notes section of today's show for all that contact information. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcasting apps, and we'll see you next time on the Retire Happy Podcast.
Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, LLC BCM, a registered investment advisor. BCM, Securus Financial, and International Financial Advisory Group are independent of each other. Insurance products and services are not offered through BCM, but are offered and sold through individually licensed and appointed agents. The opinions expressed by John Iamarino, Thomas O'Connell, and guests on this show are their own and are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Past performance cannot be used as an indicator to determine future results. Any strategies mentioned may not be suitable for everyone. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. Before acting on any information mentioned, please consult with a qualified tax or investment advisor to determine if it is suitable for your specific situation. This program is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information with regard to the subjects covered. Registered investment advisors and investment advisor representatives act as fiduciaries for all of our investment management clients. We have an obligation to act in the best interests of our clients and to make full disclosure of any conflicts of interest, if any exist. Please refer to our firm brochure, the ADV 2A Item 4, for additional information.